This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.
Welcome. You're listening to Daily Market Wisdom with Nick Santiago, Master Trader, and this is show number 6. And today is April 6th, 2020. Well, we're seeing major run-ups in gold and silver. What's the market going to do? Well, it's Monday, so Nick is fresh from a weekend of contemplation and market analysis. And happy Monday, Nick.
Happy Monday to you, Kerry. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, hey, we got optimism in the markets due to, you think there's a peak in the spread of COVID-19? You think, well, I know for sure, like in places like Washington State, where that was the first real major outbreak in the country, in a state. We see now, like King County, which is Seattle, most populated county there, the doubling rate is close to 2 weeks, which means it's way down, and that's with widespread testing. So we're going to start seeing this in other states, you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to start to see this. If you remember, I was last week, we talked a little bit about this, and I said, the charts were telling me the market looks bullish. So I have not been, looking at the downside. I know lots of people looking for retests, and all of that still can happen. But just the charts telling me that the way that they're acting is telling me that this thing is probably on the decline. And I know, we're into the spring season. Easter and Passover are about to begin. So, when you get to the spring season, weather gets better. If you just look at a regular flu, not talking about COVID-19, but the regular flu seems to tail off around this time period.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would think that, with all the measures that have taken place, the testing and everything else, we're probably looking at it, and the market's telling us that today. It doesn't mean we can't sell off tomorrow or pull back again. There's going to be a lot of chopping and filling going forward here in the marketplace, but charts were bullish, and that's this is a nice move today in the market, kind of telling us that, they're going to get this thing, somewhat under control.
Yeah, I think so many of you out there in your homes are about to go insane. I was talking with my partner, Bill Powers, and my feeling is that once you can go out of your house, people are immediately going to travel as much as they possibly can, assuming they have anything left on their credit cards or their unemployment insurance. They're now getting an extra $600 a month on it, and unemployment has waived the requirement around the country that you need to be actively looking for work because they know there's no way you can find any work. So my feeling is that, well, I don't think the travel industry is going to immediately start making money again. I think it's going to come back there relatively quickly because people are going to want to get the heck as far away from home as you possibly can.
I agree with that, Kerry. And you can see, if you just look at the way people have behaved over the years, if you look at in past times when we had 9/11, nobody would fly right away. And then next thing you know, airlines are at capacity, right? So, prior to this whole incident, any plane that I ever got on, and it didn't really matter where I was going, that plane was full.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally full. Standing room only. Well, if they don't let you stand yet, but it's just a matter of time before the airlines, it'll be like the subway, and you'll just have a strap there, and you'll be a strap hanger on an airplane. It just galls me. They're getting bailouts, the airlines, and I don't disagree with that because it is national security, and the idea of the airlines and Boeing collapsing at the same time will in itself throw the country into a major depression from which it won't come out from for years. But they spent years buying back their stock. And here they are. Now things go bad. It didn't turn out, and they don't have the cash because they bought shares in, and they got their hand out for us, for Uncle Sam, to to make them whole. And it's just something galling about that.
Well, that's a fair point. The one thing I never really like about buybacks is that all of these companies seem to buy them back when the stocks are at their highest point. They should consult with me, and I'll tell them when to buy back the stock, but they never seem to do that.
Yeah.
So this is actually where you want to be buying the stock. I don't get this, and I've seen this go on for 25 years, or 30 years that I've been doing this now. It never seems to fail. All of these companies, and we could pick on the airlines now, but the reality of it is we could pick on other industry groups too. They always buy back stock at the highs. I mean, it's just a fool's play. They all should hire a trader because these guys are making the biggest mistake. This is when they should be buying back stock right down here at these levels. And the funny thing is now the government banned them from buying back stock, right? So, you know, it's so ironic how all of this works. It's so, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
Yeah. And it just makes no sense to me. You know, you want to give your shareholders the most value, but yet you do the most, you know, ridiculous tactics.
The most damage. And you know, when you and I went to college, they taught us that share buybacks were okay when the stock was trading at a substantial discount to book value. Not when it's trading 4 or 5 times or 2 or 3 times to book value, where then it's really overpriced. But I guess they missed that class, Nick.
Yeah, I think they've missed it for 100 years, but I've never seen a company really go in and buy back their stock at a low point. You know, the best I've ever seen was some insiders come in, and I have to be honest, I look at insider buying and selling every day. And all fairness, I have seen a lot of insiders over the past month come in and buy some stock. So that's a positive there. But again, they're buying it for their own account. They're not buying it for shareholders.
No, not at all. Not at all. Hey, so, and that's a totally different motivation that the management buys it in to artificially boost their per share profits and therefore trigger bonus payments. And the traders are buying it because they see it as undervalued, and that's why they go in. Well, hey, what about oil? We saw oil go up in hopes that Trump could mediate a truce in the battle between Saudi Arabia and Russia. It's kind of been a roller coaster there.
Yeah, it has been. And Friday, it looks like that meeting, the OPEC meeting, was canceled. And now it's been, so it was canceled and the market's selling off, but that's going to happen. These guys are not going to continue to pump. It's not in their best interest, and they're hurting just as much as anybody right now. So I believe an oil cut is coming. The meeting is now rescheduled and back on for Thursday, but the oil market is selling crude off today down to $1.71. But I think you'll see oil get a little bit of a pop once things are settled out. You know, the market has a way of playing these games too. So, you know, again, a lot of people are thinking right now, oh my goodness, Russia and Saudi Arabia, they'll never come to an agreement. They will. They'll come to their kumbaya moment because it's hurting their pocketbook. And eventually everybody's pocketbook, when it gets hurt, they come to moments of reality that they have to do these certain things.
Absolutely. And it's just a question of when. It's just like a labor strike. When the employees walk out, they don't really wind up with anything extra, but they make their point. Then management and labor come to an agreement, and then they move on. And no doubt that's what's going to happen here. So, yeah, we're looking, the dollar's down a little, but what's the dollar at today, Nick?
So today the dollar is basically flat. It's really not down at all. In fact, it's up a few ticks. So right now we have the dollar at the Dixie, the dollar index, at $100.81. So I think we're going to see some more backing and filling in the dollar. I don't think we're just going to see a straight up move. It has had a really good pullback from the 23rd of March, which happened to be the market low. So I think the dollar could do some backing and filling here. I don't see the dollar sprinting higher, although I am, make no bones about it, bullish the dollar. So, you know, ultimately it's going higher. But in the shorter run, we're not going to be, you know, breaking out like we saw in early, or I should say around the the March 10th time frame. I think March 9th, the dollar put in a low, and it just soared to March 23rd, and then it put in a top, and then it came down. Now we're going to do some backing and filling. So, things are going to be more normal. And one thing I want to just say, I know we're talking about the dollar, but on Friday, what I noticed Friday's close, the volume was much, much less in the overall market indexes, meaning the S&P 500, the spiders, had much, much less volume. And that is something that we don't normally see on a Friday lately. Friday, the volume's been enormous because of all the selling pressure. This week, the market did sell off on a Friday. We were down 300-plus points on the Dow, but the overall volume was much, much lighter, and that just tells me that the dollar now is probably going to try to just consolidate a bit here at these levels.
Yeah, and seller exhaustion, huh?
Well, I think right now there's just so many participants in the market that have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a time where people just sit back a little bit and they're going to observe. They're not going to take quick, fast action anymore. They're just going to be like, all right, I got to slow this down. Let me try to figure out what's going on. And, you see this happen when you get these big panics in the market, and then you get these, little bursts of air or gasps of air, and people just say, I'm going to breathe for a bit here before I take any big initiative or initial action going forward. And I think that's what we're looking at right now.
All right, so gold, silver, where are we at here?
I mean, gold is on the move again today. I mean, it's up another $45. It's at, $16.90. Honestly, we'll probably stall out somewhere up here a little bit. I mean, we got to get a little bit of a pullback. But when I look at the gold futures chart, it's done everything I thought it would do. And, I would think at this stage we'll test 1,700, then we'll need to do a little backing and filling. But, I mean, you get all of this central bank money, and it's not only our central bank, it's global yes. Central banks. I mean, you're creating inflation, and whether or not they realize it, and gold is telling us that right now.
Yeah, so true. And we've seen it, your trade on the GDX. Where are we at there?
Yeah, GDX currently right now is 26.14. It's pulled in a little bit off of its morning highs, but, up another 5% today. So, all in all, I took half off that trade, and I'm holding the second half. The second half is up, over 10% now. So it's been a great trade so far, and I'm actually looking for the GDX to get to around, close to $29.
And that could be so that would probably translate into $1,700 plus gold, and then we're getting to the place where silver. We talked about this last week. My analogy is people are going to wake up and see gold is $1,750 an ounce, and then they're going to say, well, I can't afford that. I'm going to buy silver at $15 an ounce, and you're going to get the situation of steak gets too expensive, so you buy chicken. And that's what I'm expecting, because it's just emotional the way people do it, even though so maybe and that's part of the volatility of silver vis-a-vis gold.
I agree. And I was on your program, last week. I actually bought silver calls. I made 25% in a single day. Took them off. I am looking to reestablish them on a pullback, but silver hasn't even pulled back. But I love the pattern that it's making on the daily chart. I hope it actually pulls back a little bit more. I will re-enter call options there. I ultimately think if any of your viewers are using the SLV, they could trade that up to around the $15.50 to $16 level. And those of your listeners that are using the silver futures contracts, they could look for this thing to go to $17, maybe even a little pierce of 17 and a quarter. And these are just, daily chart levels. There's bigger patterns in play on the bigger time frames, but these are just daily chart levels right now that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So the metals play is on. At some point, we're going to probably see some type of pullback there. That would only be healthy and natural.
You'll always get backing and filling, but when you get these patterns, like I got into the SLV last week, call options, the very next day it popped. And last week we were talking about algorithms and we were talking about high frequency trading, and that was a perfect example where the chart told me that was going to pop, and sure enough, in one day, it was a 25% winner. I mean, not many people are putting out 25% gains in a single session, in a single one-day hold.
Unheard of in this market. Hey, so you mentioned, is Bill Gates running for president? He has more opinions about everything lately. He's in the press every day, and I don't know, like who has a worse reputation, him or President Trump?
I think Bill Gates does, but I honestly have never seen I've never seen this guy so vocal about things. He's always been kind of a mouse. When Steve Jobs was around, he really was very, very quiet. Now, I mean, he's like out of his cocoon. He's out of his shell here. This guy has got more opinions about everything going forward, from pandemics to how to run the world. I've never seen anything like it. I got to think, is this guy like, trying to run for president? I mean, I don't know what his scenario is here, but I have to say, I just can't turn on the financial news without seeing his name pop up.
Hey, and he's probably about as good a candidate as Nanny Bloomberg was when you get down to it. The guy's never been challenged in his life on any opinion he held, on anything he's ever done, because he's always been the richest guy in the room, and the rich guy in the room doesn't get questioned. So those people generally are the worst candidates.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming a little bit where, he has an opinion on pandemics. He has an opinion on how much carbon needs to be in the air. He's just very opinionated. I have to think that, I honestly don't think they could put Joe Biden up to run.
No,
I just can't.
He's a placeholder.
Honestly.
He's a placeholder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anybody that knows, has a half a brain knows that there's no way on God's earth that guy can make it through an evening debate, even if it's on Skype.
Yeah.
He won't be able to do it. So
yeah, he'll walk away. His teleprompter will go off and he'll be toast. If you want to know, like, Joe Biden's prospect, well, they probably won't you in now, but I suggest once the pandemic's over, you go visit a nursing home and do some volunteer work, and you'll see where Joe Biden's rightful place is.
I mean, the guy's his best days are behind him as far as being witty. He just doesn't have it now, and to see how he became, from fifth place to the front runner, it's kind of shaky there too. I mean, anybody that's buying into that stuff is crazy. If you just listen to a few words the guy says, just listen to him put together a paragraph. It's bizarre.
Oh,
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So there's no way he could be running. But Bill Gates, I mean, he might be trying to pull a Howard Schultz out of his hat. I saw Howard Schultz this morning on CNBC. He actually mentioned Bill Gates. So, I mean, I've never seen, anything like this. It looks like this Bill Gates, I mean, he might be the dark horse candidate over here.
I knew there was going to be one. I always said, I've been saying this for months. By the way, Nick, you haven't heard it, but I've said at least 6 months ago that Biden was never going to be the nominee. I thought originally they're going to split all the votes up and do a brokered convention. Actually, it's much better if he just drops. And maybe those Bernie voters will actually vote for a Bill Gates. They're certainly not going to vote for a Joe Biden. And you can just see he's not long for this campaign, for sure. So this one is pretty easy. What does it mean for the market, though?
Well, I'm not sure how the markets are going to like it, to be honest. The markets seem to like the Trump policies, at least from what I can see. And in all fairness, all of these politicians, it doesn't matter, including Trump, they all spend fortunes, right? So now you have a pandemic on our hand, and money has been printed to oblivion. Somebody will have to, pay the price for that. There's no free lunch in the world. And now you get Bill Gates, who looks more like a globalist to me, and we'll see what comes out of it. I'm not sure the United States is ready for a Bill Gates or even wants a Bill Gates. I certainly don't. So we'll see, where we go here. But this guy's definitely got his flag up, saying, "Hey, look at me every day. I can't believe how much I'm hearing about him."
Yeah, and his policies are really globalist in nature. They don't seem to really care about the individual. He's a Seattle liberal, let's face it, and that's who he is, and he doesn't pretend to be anything else. their hope is that people will be so fed up with what's happened in the country and that they'll blame Trump for it. Um, we knew this. We knew this pullback was going to happen. You and I have been talking about it. We didn't know the coronavirus is coming. It's kind of a politician's dream because he can get the economy reset and without having to get any blame for it. It's the coronavirus. We were going along. We had the best economy ever until the coronavirus came along, right? And it gives him an out that he wouldn't otherwise have for just a standard recession.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I call President Trump the Teflon Don, not John Gotti. The real Teflon Don is President Trump. He's overcome everything from, the Russia hoax to the latest hoax with impeachment and every other thing. So, we'll see how he handles this. I mean, right now, I actually can't see anybody else that could do it. I mean, he gets up on the television every night in front of the American people, and he gives, a 2-hour, sometimes it's 2 hours up there, Q&A, and, he handles the coronavirus head on. I mean, so you put somebody else up. Can you imagine Joe Biden handling those questions?
Oh, I can't even imagine Joe Biden doing a press conference. This is probably the worst time of Trump's life in certain ways since he went broke in the late 80s, early 90s, right? I mean, purportedly went broke, managed to claw his way out, but he learned a lot about himself and other people then. And whether he's up to this challenge or not, you'll have to make the decision. But it's definitely a trying time for him and for everyone. Anyways, you want to go check out inthemoneystocks.com for Nick's latest offer. Also, you can check his record there real time, and it's pretty formidable. I don't know anyone else out there, or very few, that have been able to prosper in this market. And Nick, you were fully prepared for it. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get your latest take. Hey, any particular trade you're watching right now that might be the one to look?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a few things out here at the moment, but we have such a big update today. So after a big update, normally the next trading session, we have usually a more subdued session, or we'll even get a little retrace or a pullback. So I guess maybe tomorrow would be a better time to talk about that, because I can't jump on anything new when the market's up this much. I'm a buyer when things are on sale, just like I go grocery shopping. We buy the most amount of things when they're on sale, and when they're, hiked up, we kind of pass on them. So I think that's how you have to be as a trader as well. But maybe tomorrow we'll talk about the next play out here. But yeah, there are a lot of things shaping up. It's just a matter of looking at these charts and letting these charts tell us what to do. But, anytime the market's up, 950 or 960 points like it is now, I'm usually waiting the next day.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty huge run up, 1,000 points, although it's kind of commonplace now, Nick.
Yeah, it's been common.
It's like what you expect to see. And that just shows you how the market's changed. Just like in gold, man, $10 was a pretty big move on the upside, but $30, $40, $50 on the downside was not unheard of. Now we're seeing $50 upside moves in the precious metal sector, in gold in particular, and it's just a matter of time till silver catches on. Anyway, that's it for now. Oh, by the way, if you got a question, a comment, or want additional information, Nick and I would love for you to write us, kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. I know there's a lot of you skeptics out there, especially on YouTube, and you should be skeptical of anyone who makes any claims to making substantial profits in these markets. But Nick's, it's real easy for you to find out. You just have to go to inthemoneystocks.com, and you can track his progress there just about real time. And Nick, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, Kerry. Thank you very much.
This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.